First and foremost, no, I'm not naked. I'm wearing a tube top. Second of all, I know you guys see me post a lot about my children and how much work that I've done with them and all of these different things. And I wanted to talk about something that is near and dear to me, and that's on the difficulty of being a mother. And I'm not even talking about from the perspective of raising black children in the society that we're in. I mean, from the perspective of going from a person who was responsible for only themselves to now becoming responsible for a completely different life and worrying significantly that you will fuck that shit up. That's what I want to talk about tonight. This message is brought to you by a conversation that I had with my husband that said that I don't like talking about myself because I don't mind if the spotlight's on me and people are asking me questions, but I don't like revisiting my past. I'm a little bit of a vault. So I'm sharing a little bit of myself with you guys so you can see where I'm coming from and how much healing and work I have had to do so that I can be the Yayo that you guys know and love. So, backstory. Whew, okay. When I had my first child, I was not in the position mentally to really be having a kid. Like, you know how you guys talking about being ready to have a kid? Mentally, I was not ready. We went through a lot of things. We had ended up divorced. We ended up having some problems, and I basically ended up putting myself into a position where I isolated myself, which I don't know if and how many of you guys know what it's like after you have a baby, and that's probably not the best idea to isolate yourself, but I did. So I isolated myself a little bit after I had my first child, and my first child was incredibly colicky. He would cry all the time, and I'm a new mom and I want to do everything right, and everything was just falling apart all around me, and I felt myself becoming increasingly suicidal, and it had gotten to the point where I was willing to try and I was willing to try to take my own child's life. And when that happened, I realized that I needed help. So I did not go about it in the best of ways, but I ended up trying to give away my son. I tried to do a whole bunch of different things that weren't exactly the best way to handle once I knew that that was what was happening. So thankfully, we were able to get my son back. I was able to go to therapy and get the help that I needed. And in the process of me doing that, I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about working with those complex emotions, because a lot of those things that had led to me becoming suicidal in the first place and led to me feeling the way that I felt with my son stemmed from me feeling like I could not manage having a small child. Like, I was really gonna fuck this person up. Like, having a kid sometimes puts you face to face with who you were, what your daddy issues were, what your mommy issues are, all of those things all at once. Because especially if you grew up with parents who weren't necessarily I don't even want to say perfect, but if you grew up with parents who were less than ideal, sometimes that can leave some scars. And if you don't get those things healed, when you have a child, it's just really, really difficult to do what you need to do. So fast forward, I got help. And because I got help and I learned the coping mechanisms that I needed in order to be a better mother, that is why you see me posting and dealing with my children the way that I do, because I had to become a whole person in order for me to do it. As a matter of fact, when I had my second child, I was nervous as hell that I was going to go right back into that dark space. But the second one, I had much more help. Me and my husband were back together. I had my mother around. I had family around. And I didn't isolate myself and make the same mistakes. So I actually grew and learned from it. And it made me a better mother. Now, I am not going to fix my mouth to say that I am the perfect mom, because I still have a lot of work. But I do want to say these things because I feel like our society doesn't give mothers the space they need to make mistakes and to learn and grow from them. And we need help. We do. Giving and caring, whether some people realize it or not, it doesn't always come naturally to us, especially if you didn't have a good model of that. And I'm not saying my mother wasn't a good model of that. It's just that our relationship became extremely toxic to where I lost sight of everything that she had taught me when I was younger. And because of that, I just kind of wiped her imprint out of my brain for a long time. And that didn't help at all. So now I look, especially for people who have just had children, pay attention, because sometimes the signs are really subtle. Something as simple as crying at night when dealing with the baby, or she's looking extra tired, or she's looking like she doesn't want to be alone with the baby for too long. Anything along those signs, she might not be comfortable enough to ask for help, but still offer it anyway. Hey, let me take the kid from you for a little bit. Let me go ahead and help you out, so that she can have those time to process all of those hormones that are going through her head, all of those complex emotions that are going through her head, because having a child is a nerve-wracking experience. Between whether you had a C-section or you delivered vaginally, no matter what, it's a nerve-wracking experience. So if you have a new mother in your life, just watch for some of those signs, because she's not going to be able to ask for help. I know I couldn't ask for help when I had postpartum. I couldn't. I wasn't going to either. But thankfully, the ancestors were merciful and I was able to recover from it. But offer that help if you can, even if it's something as simple as just checking in on her when nobody else is willing to do so, because sometimes they're going to need those things. So that's what I wanted to share with you. That is a dark moment from my past, and I am happy that I am healed from it and that I had the time to recover from it. I've actually talked to my son about it. He was kind of intuitively aware of what happened when he was younger, but I never vocalized it. But when I did vocalize it, he was actually kind of thankful. And I explained it to him from the perspective, like, look, mommy needed help because mommy was trying to figure out how to be a good mom. And he was like, okay, I understand that. And he has a good context from which to draw now, because I spend time talking with him and, not necessarily being perfect, but like, look, mom's not perfect. I need help sometimes. And he's like, okay, cool, I understand. And having that from not only me, but his father as well, has given him a good model from which to be a little bit more understanding when it comes to certain things like that. So just be mindful with your new parents, especially the new mothers, especially if you know those new mothers had really difficult relationship with their parents and they're the kind of people who want to go above and beyond what their parents told them. Just watch out for those signs, because you never know how much they could be suffering on the inside, and a lot of times they're not going to ask for help. So that's all I wanted to share with you guys tonight, and I will talk to you guys later.